Your interaction space is horrible. It's the interaction that's a grudge. If in that moment you could pick up your phone and say, I want life insurance now, can I have it? Yes, you're done. You're done. It's not the purchase that's a grudge. It's the process. That's horrible.
That negative viewpoint from Ross Beerman, co-founder of All Life in South Africa, is quite an indictment, really. An uncomfortable truth, maybe, and something the industry must address in this digital era. The why and the how of this is explored today. Hello, I'm Ross Campbell, leading on digital at Gen Re and your host for this podcast series. Join me on an audio adventure that restrings highlights from our global research into compelling considerations for the future, for discussion and exploration with you, your team, your company, and our innovation partners. Episode 7 of 10.
My belief is actually we still have a distribution model which is largely rooted in the last century. It hasn't yet adapted, and I think it will. I think insurers need to be very, very careful about that trend. It could be a massive plus for insurers that get it right, but for insurers that get it wrong, they will be disintermediated, and at best they will provide a small part of the value chain, and at worst they won't exist.
If this is true, then what forces are driving a new engagement and distribution model? We should also ask if the industry needs to change ways that have served it so well and for so long.
One of the key areas of growth, I think, is clients wanting to buy themselves. They don't want to go to an advisor, they don't want to see people face to face.
There is a significant segment of consumers who just don't want to talk to a human, they don't want to be intermediated, either for fear of feeling foolish or being ripped off or being, or the intermediaries not acting in their best interests, all of those things. So I think it's entirely reasonable, as AI and machine learning and so forth and data allow computers to provide as good as, probably better advice than a human, that people will take to that.
One thing about the rise of artificial intelligence that I see as potential benefit is that it's going to remove the human bias that we tend to put into the products that we make, the advice that we give.
Some customers may be feeling that an intermediary is superfluous to making decisions to buy cover, at least some of the time. If this is true, then it's important for technology to deliver better results and better service. People may be ready to give it a try, so it's best the industry prepares.
The concept of robo advice in life insurance is going to grow. And I think for simple need products, simple protection products, I believe that robo-advice is going to play a part, and life insurers need to embrace that and deal with the tension that's going to create with their distribution arms. We're not going to be happy about this, but it's going to happen. And I think the companies that embrace it take their distributor team with them so that they understand this is not going to be bad for you, this is going to be good for you.
So I heard one of the CEOs of one of Australia's largest broking houses here last week say, we'll never move away from the high-touch human model. And I thought, oh dear, okay, yeah, you're going to be in trouble because you'll need to, because companies like us will replace that high-touch human-to-human interaction using machines, and we will make the whole thing more efficient, thereby lifting the human up to do more value-added work. So better relations, more problem solving, better things that the machines can't do well yet, these brokers could potentially do.
Once people get confident with simple types of AI and see it delivers results, then they will become more adventurous with using complex applications and platforms. In no time, customers will have advanced way beyond the industry in terms of how they engage.
I think one of the things I've been most impressed by with some of the fintechs that I've seen is their ability to focus on the user experience and deliver really slick and easy to use design. I think the other is their creative use of data. So all of the data that might be gathered on somebody's mobile phone, including their health data, for example, by connection with wearables, integrating their social media feeds. So I think that that combination of being able to use all of the rich stream of data that we are each creating every day and create really compelling user experiences that people want to do and feel comfortable doing are probably two areas that I feel we could certainly benefit from.
Fintech companies, they don't just speak to banks, they're speaking to parties that can assist with distribution. And those parties may be messaging platforms. These parties may be the likes of Uber and Grab and Airbnb. They're retailers, they're telecoms companies, all of these things. As soon as you move to a platform-based system, it's it's much easier to give it effectively a toolbox to the customer or a shop to the customer in terms of what do you need? It's like a department store delivered through the one platform. And that's fantastically interesting for me personally because it goes to the customer experience. This is something that I find very exciting because ultimately it's what drives me. That's for me where I sit. I'm a consumer and I want to see better delivery, and my frustration has always been with the inadequacies of delivery and the frustrations around not being valued by your provider. So ultimately, if we can get to a platform-based model whereby distribution is improved and distribution is made quicker, is made more seamless, because we run so many things through one or two few platforms. If you look at your phone, how many apps do you have? Probably tens, possibly hundreds. How many do you use? Probably single figures at most, maybe 10, 11, 12. So we're moving to a position, and you see this with the likes of Twitter and Facebook, they include everything in the same place, Facebook in particular. And they're bringing in more and more features or services or offerings or retaining the engagement of the consumer within one platform.
It's interesting to think about distribution moving to a platform where the customer meets the supplier differently. There will be tools for people to personalize their own solution, configuring it to their specific needs. That's a radically different way to how insurance is currently marketed and sold.
There's a lot you can do with feature phones, and there's a lot you can do with other players in the ecosystem. And I think the winning solution in this new digital space is one that collaborates with different ecosystem players. So the pace of change and the way that consumers engages with different brands and different players in this digital ecosystem is so rapid that the approach that I think will work is to work together with other players in that ecosystem in a collaborative manner and ensure that in the end, value creation to the end consumer is key.
Another general theme is just, all you need to do is just partner with someone that has an awful lot of customers. So whether it's a Tencent or Alibaba or Google and those kinds of, so that's another strategy. And of course the fear is, or not the fear, but it's often talked about that one of these internet giants, they have the capital required, they have a customer base, they certainly have the technology competency to conquer the market. So why not sort of join up with them and try and get a piece of that?
So a new distribution model could be more progressive, more collaborative. It's a way of working that's significantly altered other markets. We have to look closely at the successes and be ready to make some brave calls.
Your biggest threat to your industry doesn't come from within that industry. So you have to watch what is happening cross industry in order to sort of gauge what's going to hit. And the music industry shows us that you get hit repeatedly by disruption. It's not just one disruption, and there's digitization, for example, and you sit back on your laurels and you think, okay, that's fine. It comes in waves.
It requires that you understand the shifting landscape and that you understand adjacencies and how you can leverage what you're currently good at in other areas. Okay, but there is some element of discontinuity, and when you do something that's discontinuous, then it requires a lot more leadership, it requires a lot more vision, because what you're doing is you're essentially telling a lot of people that what they've been really good at, you're not going to be doing anymore. Or you have to tell your investors that the model they've been using to value the company is no longer the one they should be thinking about. And that requires the kind of leadership that is very different from simply moving from adjacency to adjacency. So I'm not saying that these transitions aren't adjacencies, but they're bigger leaps.
So it may be a good time to review how we meet customers, to introduce new ways for people to engage, offering them a value proposition with options for personalization. What are the precedents for failing to evolve to meet changing demands?
There's another favorite saying that I picked up from Andre Perrault, and it says, in this exponential world, if you are not certain whether you're the wolf, then sadly, you are the sheep, right? The wolf is a territorial creature. And if you do not understand that your territory has shifted like BlackBerry, and you start to say, wait a minute, what is the new territory? It's smartphones, it's screens that are, interactable. Then you're all of a sudden a sheep. BlackBerry became a sheep. And so the capacity to see a signal, to define it as a new territory that you can again be in a somewhat dominating and dominant role, a wolf kind of role, is really fundamental to the success of an enterprise.
Well, we live in a world of exponential change. It's going to change business models tremendously. If we don't change it ourselves, somebody else will change it.
So let's start to change it. We really want to talk to you about digital. Call your local Genry office to make that happen, or get in touch with me direct. And please join me in the next podcast to hear more insights.